Hari Om. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the next session of Kindle Life. And let's continue our journey and this most interesting knowledge that we are gaining from. So let's begin our session with prayers.
Samasta Jan Kalyani Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastuma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. The Knowledge of India series continues. Why is it called the Knowledge of India? Is because Shruti, also known as Vedas. Vedas are the texts which are called the Brāhmanas or the authentic books. Emerging from this, the knowledges that come are the knowledges of India. You know, people have this understanding that Vedas only are spiritual knowledge. Just like any other text of other religion which deals with only spiritual knowledge, religious knowledge. Vedas are the ekmatra, the only text in the universe which not only have the spiritual knowledge but also the secular, the worldly, the sciences of the world incorporated in spirituality. The beautiful balance mix of spirituality and the worldly knowledge, the knowledge of the sciences together. Come, let us find out more about it.
Just as there cannot be life without the consciousness, so there will never be any knowledge without the touch of spirituality. Yesterday we were seeing, where knowledge was concerned, about sciences. Science from the viewpoint of the rishis and science from the viewpoint of a scientist. The field of inquiry for a scientist was the object in order to make the world a better place, to raise the standard of living. The field of inquiry for the rishis was the subject to develop the inner personality and raise the standard of life. Thus, the man of the highest intellect and purest of intentions studied thoroughly the human being and formulated his spiritual-physical personality. The Atman gave life to the sheaths which enveloped it, and these sheaths were called the koshas. The Atman is the divine spark. It is also called the self, and it is represented by the sacred symbol Om. We are going further into chapter number 23 from where we had left yesterday. And some of the words that you will encounter while reading ahead were precincts, means boundaries, a tyrant, an oppressor or an oppressive ruler, flux, that is ever moving or changing, or the state of flux, ever changing or moving, cessation, brought to an end. Please let me remind you that these meanings are for relevance of what we are reading in Kindle Life. Every word could have multiple meanings. So let us go ahead. As you can see in your books, you will find a diagram over there which has been given to you. In that diagram, if you see, there is an Om written right on top, and there is like a cone, a slice of cake, which is a part of a large circle, and a large hole. Yes, probably you may not be able to see it from the iPad we have, but you can see in your books. Just wanted to keep your attention to one particular small mistake is there. On the left hand side, you can see there is macrocosm written in a rectangle. And below that also, there is macrocosm written. So that is the small error. It is macrocosm on top, which leads to Virat, Hiranyagarbha and Ishvara. But below that, it is supposed to be microcosm. That A is supposed to be I. So kindly make that small correction. We will
this to them on the SMS also.
I think many of you have already been notified of that small correction, but please do so. And we will come to this map or this diagram later. Let us now continue with our reading. The Atman or the self is represented in the diagram by the sacred mystic symbol Om. The 5 concentric layers of matter enveloping the Atman are called the sheaths or the koshas. The term sheath indicates that it is a mere covering for something, which is more vital. Just as the sword and its sheath remain separate from each other, so too there is no mutual contact between the divine spark of life and matter vestures covering it. So what is important is covered by the sheath. There are 5 distinct sheaths called Pancha koshas. Pancha is 5. There are 5 sheaths which are covering this consciousness. The food sheath, the vital air sheath, the mental sheath, the intellectual sheath, and the bliss sheath. Otherwise, they are also called Annamaya kosha, Pranamaya kosha, Manomaya kosha, Vijnanamaya kosha, and Anandmaya kosha. It is very important. I want to take your notice to this particular aspect. That just like a modern scientist has given the physical description, a doctor knows the physical description of a body and has explained all the different systems, circulation system, etc., within our body, the digestive system, circulatory system. So too, thousands of years ago, the rishis had seen the entirety of human life, and he had not just taken physiology or just biology or just anatomy, but he has understood that man was a combination of the spirit as well as the body. And thus, the differentiation was made accordingly. So there were these 5 sheaths which constituted all of the gross and subtle matter of the human person. So once again, I will repeat the sheaths. Please pay attention. The food sheath or Annamaya kosha, the vital air sheath or the Pranamaya kosha, the mental sheath or the Manomaya kosha, the intellectual sheath or Vijnanmaya kosha, the bliss sheath or Anandmaya kosha. The food sheath or Annamaya kosha, the physical body, the outermost presence of our personality, beyond which we do not physically exist, is termed as the food sheath. It is so called because it has emerged from the essence of food assimilated by the father and is nourished in the womb by the food taken by the mother. It continues to exist because of the food eaten, and it ultimately, after death, goes back to fertilize the earth and become food. The substance of the physical structure rising from food, existing in food, and going back to becoming food is naturally and most appropriately termed as the food sheath. I'm sure it was very clear to all of you that we have emerged from essentially food matter. Even the sperm from the father, when it goes to the womb of the mother, the accumulation of all our strength and vital energies that we have in our body are possible only due to the food that we eat, the growth that takes place with us. And in the womb, the child is also nourished by the food taken in by the mother. Once the child is born, the growth also happens because of the food. And as the child grows into an adult, the life that he leads, the energy that he needs, all of us do need, is coming from essentially the food. And eventually or ultimately upon our deaths, whether we are buried or whether we are cremated, our ashes go back to the earth, which gives us the food once again, the nourishment and the food. So this whole entire cycle is related to the food, and thus appropriately it is called as the Annamaya Kosha or the food sheath. The food sheath consists of 5 sense organs or organs of perceptions, the Gyan Indriyas, and 5 organs of action which are known as the Karma Indriyas. So we have just seen that our physical body, the limits of our physical body is the Annamaya Kosha or the food sheath. Now what it is made up of 10 essential things, amongst which 5 are called the sense organs or organs of perception known as Gyanendriyas, and 5 organs of action known as Karmendriyas. The 5 sense organs, we all know that, are the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, and the skin. The organs of action are the speech, again the tongue, hands, feet, the genital organ, and the organs of evacuation. Yes, Jagdish, this is very clearly told to us.
Absolutely. However, not many people consider the skin, or they don't get in their mind that it could be an organ of touch. It is only through the skin that we receive any touch from outside.
Feelings.
Any feelings. Whether it is somebody's touch, or it is the touch of the breeze, or it is the touch, the heat, anything. It's a very, very important organ. It's an organ of perception.
Yes. Let us see the second one. The vital air sheath or Pranamaya Kosha. The Pancha Pranas, which correspond to the 5 physiological systems described by the biologists, represent the vital air sheath. These activities which support the body take place as a result of the air that we breathe in. Hence it is termed as the vital air sheath. This is very clear to us. For all of us, we understand what is pran, but let us understand it correctly and completely as to what it does in our body and why it is in English known as the vital air sheath. We have seen that now prana also 5. We have already seen earlier that in the food sheath there are 5 Gyanendriyas, 5 Karmendriyas, and now we are seeing in the second, that is Pranamaya Kosha, that there are 5 pranas. Jagdish, can you tell us which are the 5 pranas?
Pran, Apan, Vyan, Udan, and Saman. The order which Gurudev has given is slightly different.
So let us see what it means. The first is prana, the faculty of perception. It controls the perception of the 5-fold stimuli received from the outer world of objects through the 5 sense organs. In short, it is responsible for gathering data which is received by the sense perception or the organs of sense perception. So the 5 organs which are there, our senses, they work because of prana.
So for example, right now they're listening. So right now you are listening. So you're utilizing your pran shakti to receive, to grahan karna, to receive it.
Okay. Next is apana, the faculty of excretion. All the things which are thrown out of or rejected by the body, such as the seeds, the sperm, sputum, perspiration, urine, feces, etc., are the expressions of apana. So the force that is required for removing all the things which are thrown out by the body are due to apana. So we've seen now prana, we've seen apana. Samana, the faculty of digestion. It digests the food received in the stomach. So the air, the correct pressures which are required, the movement for the food which is required to be digested is done by samana. Vyana, the faculty of circulation. The power by which the digested food is properly conveyed to the various limbs of the body by the blood stream. So we have all known this and learned this also, that when the food is digested, the energy that is taken from that food has to be given to all the different parts of our body. And this particular function of circulation is done by Vyana. Finally, Udana, the faculty of thinking. The capacity in an individual to raise his thoughts from their present level so as to conceive a possibility of or appreciate a new principle or idea is the capacity of self-education. At some stage we, which is continuing, and at some stage all of you who are listening to a different talk of Vedanta, something different, grasping it, understanding it, taking your faculty of thought even higher. So this particular function is done, the faculty of thinking, by Udana. Udana Vayu. These 5 faculties gradually weaken as man advances in age. The vital air sheath controls and regulates the food sheath. When the pranas do not function properly, the physical body is affected. This is so clear. Just you have to think for a moment to realize that suppose we cannot understand anymore what we are seeing as we get older, and our excretion is giving digestive problems we are having, or that our circulation is not proper. How many medical problems we can have if there is any upheaval in any of this pranamaya kosha, especially the last one. Imagine we are not able to think. Unfortunately, we've seen certain diseases where people have no memories, they forget things, they cannot anymore understand what is happening as age advances. We pray to God that we are saved from this. And you now understand how important this vital air sheath or pranamaya kosh is. The third sheath is the mental sheath or the manomaya kosha. The mind regulates and orders the vital air sheath. For example, when the mind is upset due to some shock, the functions of the pranas and the body are affected. A detailed study of mind and intellect is as follows. So mental sheath we know now is the manomaya kosha, and how it can get affected also when we come under any kind of shock. To see things further, let us see the intellectual sheath. The intellect controls the mental sheath. A comparative study of mind and intellect. To get a clear idea of what exactly the mind and intellect are, they have been differentiated below in 5 ways. This multiple differentiation serves to give us a clear and comprehensive picture of the exact significance of the 2 terms and basic differences between them. So here we just simply have to remember the number 5 and you will automatically remember everything that you have learned also. So what we are going to do now is have a comparative study between the
Mind and intellect.
Because we are talking about the Manomaya Kosha also and the Vijnanmaya Kosha. The mind is that which receives the external stimuli through sense organs and communicates the responses to the organs of action. Jnanendriya to Karmendriya.
Via mind.
Via the mind. Though the stimuli received through the 5 sense organs are distinct and different from one another, the mind is an integrated experience of them all. 5 different sense organs. The ears have a different function, nose different, so on and so forth. All of these 5 simultaneously send signals to the mind. So different signals having different functions at the same time come to the mind, and then what is the mind doing? Though the stimuli received through the 5 sense organs are distinct and different from one another, the mind is an integrated experience of them all. The intellect is the judging capacity, the discriminating and the discerning faculty, which examines and judges the stimuli received by the mind and communicates to the mind its decision on the type of responses to be executed. The mind is like a receiving and dispatching clerk who mechanically receives the office mail and dispatches as per the instructions of the officer in charge. The intellect may therefore be compared to the officer sitting in judgment over the disposal of papers received from the clerk and directing him as to the type of action to be taken. The mechanism of the mind and intellect and their functions are better understood with the help of an illustration. When an individual steps on a live cigarette, he quickly removes his foot, but before he does so, a series of reactions take place. As soon as the man's foot comes in contact with the fire, the skin carries the stimuli of heat to the mind, which in turn puts it up before the intellect for determining the type of reaction necessary. The intellect, with the help of the experience and knowledge gained by it in the past, orders the mind, which in turn communicates the order to the muscles of the body to move the foot away, since the object contacted is dangerous to the welfare of the individual. How brilliantly is this explained? How many things go into an action which we don't even think of or realize?
We simply say it's an instinctive action.
Yes.
Actually, for that instinctive action, it takes the mind and the intellect to learn it over a period of time, whereby the intellect remembers it and the action, the reaction is absolutely the same. If I may give a small example, when a shishu, a small child, is being bitten by a mosquito, the child does not go and hit the mosquito.
It can't, yeah.
It can't, and it hasn't got the experience of it. But it feels pain, so it cries.
Yes.
When it cries, somebody else comes and does the job for him. Once, twice, 100 times. As the child grows, mentally and intellectually, it sees others and also experiences himself doing it. And a point in time comes when the child is a little grown up and the mosquito hits, instantly the whole thing happens. Mosquito biting, it goes to the mind goes to the intellect says, yes, this is what has to be done. The message comes back and the hand comes up.
Correct.
One last point. Every one of us, even when our eyes are closed, even when we are in sleep, if a mosquito bite is here, you will never hit there. Your hand instinctively goes to the right place.
That is true. We've all done this. So the second point, which was there, remember there were 5 given for explaining the connection between mind and intellect. 2, again, mind is a continuous flow of thoughts. If each thought is likened to a bucket of water, then the mind may be compared to a river, which is a constant flow of water. A bucket of water has no dynamism of its own, but when many buckets of water continuously flow, the river gathers dynamism and strength. So too, when thoughts flow continuously, they cause a lot of agitation and the mind becomes the most powerful tyrant of man. The intellect is the storehouse of all memory of one's past experiences and knowledge. This storehouse of experience is the guiding factor in man's actions. In the above simile, the intellect can be compared with the banks of a river, which determine its direction and course. We have already earlier seen this in good detail. 3. The mind can also be described as the seat of emotions and feelings, and the intellect as the springboard of all ideas. We know we are called emotional and emotionalism, as we have seen earlier. Having emotions is good, emotionalism is not good. And the intellect is the springboard of all ideas. So many beautiful things that come up to our mind, and we can always carry them forward. Something which can really be wonderful. These sort of ideas come directly to our intellect.
Keep the time in mind.
Yeah. 4. Another approach to the study of the mind and the intellect is to examine the realm in which they operate. The mind has the capacity to travel only to the realms known, but the intellect, besides remaining in the realms known, can further penetrate the realms unknown to investigate, contemplate, comprehend new discoveries. This is quite important, that the mind, in a sense, is limited. It only operates within its own realm which it knows. But the intellect can go beyond. It can think beyond what it knows. That is why it is also called the springboard of ideas. 5th, the mind and intellect also differ in their nature and quality. The mind is ever in a state of flux. It is always the doubting element. But when the thoughts stabilize themselves to form a willed judgment, they are called the intellect. For example, when a man is indecisive as to whether he should be a vegetarian or a non-vegetarian, his thoughts in that condition of doubt and indecision are called the mind. But when they take a firm decision, whatever it be, his thoughts acquire the status of intellect. Therefore, what is mind at one moment can be developed to an intellect at the next moment. And conversely, an intellect can be reduced to the status of a mind when its decision is shattered by the suggestions of a more powerful intellect. The above differentiation meant for our clear understanding of the mind and intellect is purely functional. In essence, however, they are both constituted of thoughts, and in the study of Vedanta, many a time either of them is used to indicate the other as well. So let me just quickly give some clarification on the earlier matter, where we have seen the mind is a continuous flow of thoughts, but when these thoughts are arrested in a decisive manner, there are so many thoughts, but now those thoughts have been arrested. That means you have taken a decision. They have come together. Yes, this is there, this is there, this is there, but this is what is my choice. Once that willingness is there, the decision has been made, the same mind turns into the intellect. At the same time, when the intellect is getting hesitated, it has made a decision, but it reverts back to, oh, I don't know what is happening. Once again, let me think about it. So as soon as that comes into the mind, that time the intellect has dissolved to being a mind. And this intellect sometimes also gets overridden by a stronger intellect or a stronger decisive maker. Most of the times, this influence of a stronger intellect or a more powerful intellect comes from outside. Just for a small example, suppose the chief minister has made a decision, okay? And then the prime minister tells him that no, this is better. So the decision has been changed for a more powerful or more decisive intellect. So that is how it can take over. And sometimes the same example can happen to us also with our own decisions also. So this above differentiation meant for our clear understanding of mind and intellect is purely functional. In essence, however, they are both constituted of thoughts, and in the study of Vedanta, many a time, either of them is used to indicate the other as well. So today, we will stop our session over here and continue to see the most wonderful Anandamaya Kosha tomorrow. So please read these notes today, think about it, see the wonderful things that we have spoken about today, how many things we have learned, what is the blessings of our rishis, what intellect they must have had, what thought process they must have had, and our naman and namo to these gurus, due to which we all have such a wonderful life. So we finish our session with prayers today.
Om Asito ma satgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma mrutangamaya. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Hari Om.